10 years ago, I walked into a ghost town of a company. Once a decent-sized manufacturer with 50 employees, it had collapsed under poor management and outdated systems. By the time I arrived, they were down to 3 people, barely alive, hanging on by threads. The task was clear but enormous: revive the company or shut it down. I rolled up my sleeves. For 2 years, I rebuilt from the inside out. Streamlined operations, slashed deadweight, upgraded outdated machinery, hired smart, lean, skilled employees, rewrote process maps, modernized the entire operation. And in that time, we went from the brink of extinction to $10 million in revenue with consistent 6-figure profit per employee. It was my proudest professional accomplishment. Enter Bob. Bob joined about a year into the transformation. On paper, he had some relevant skills, CAD knowledge, basic precision work, but in practice, he was average. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't adaptable, strategic, or innovative, skills we desperately needed to keep scaling. Still, I gave him a shot. I'm a believer in people. But after 2 years, it was clear Bob wasn't helping us grow. He was a drag on progress. So I did something I always try to do. I gave him 2 months' notice to find a new job. Told him I'd write a positive reference for the stuff he was actually good at, but I wouldn't lie. He'd need to keep working until he left, but I'd give him flexibility for interviews. To his credit, Bob didn't slack. Not exactly a high bar, but still. Eventually, he found a new job. Didn't use me as a reference. Didn't say goodbye. Years later, I visited one of our partner companies. I was there on behalf of the parent org, doing a routine check-in. I walk into the lobby, and guess who's standing next to my main contact? Bob. We shake hands. It's civil, surface level. But I can feel the tension, like shaking hands with a ghost from a war you didn't finish fighting. Then my contact, let's call him Charlie, smiles at me and says, "You were lucky to have Bob back then. He turned that place around. If it weren't for him, you guys would have folded." Honestly, he was a game changer. My heart dropped. My blood boiled. That wasn't just a stretch. It was a lie. A rewrite of history, so bold it almost felt surreal. And then Charlie added, like an afterthought, I guess Aguiantha Hill helped too. I forced a smile. Well, I'm glad Bob found a good fit. That's all I said. But inside, something snapped. I moved on. Took a new position. A bigger one. Left the company I rebuilt in good hands. Solid leadership, people I trusted. Meanwhile, the industry got rocked. COVID, supply chain chaos, inflation. But the company I'd rebuilt? It held on. Not booming, but stable. Every so often, I'd hear about Bob. Bumped into him once or twice. Always surface level. Always polite. But I kept my distance. Then one day the phone rang. It was the new general manager of my old company. The one I personally hired years back. He said, "Hey, a guy named Bob applied for our head of ops role. He says he did a lot of the transformation work when you were there. He's got strong recommendations, and honestly, his resume looks good. But I wanted to check with you first." And just like that, the truth had power again. I paused, took a breath, and then I told the truth. I told him exactly what Bob did, what he didn't do. That Bob had potential in narrow areas, but none of the transformational credit belonged to him. That he exaggerated, embellished, and flat-out misrepresented his role. There was silence on the other end. Then the GM replied, "Thanks for the honesty. That's all I needed." Bob didn't get the job. And just like that, nearly 10 years later, the lie that Bob had built his career on finally caught up to him. He had taken credit for my work, for my sweat, for my nights sleeping at the office, my battles with upper management, my decisions that saved dozens of jobs. And in the end, it cost him everything. He thought the truth was buried in the past. But truth is patient. And when it resurfaces, it hits like a wrecking ball. I didn't ruin Bob's life. I didn't even seek revenge. All I did was tell the truth. Sometimes karma doesn't show up like a thunderstorm. Sometimes it walks in quietly, years later, when you've almost forgotten the pain, and simply says, I haven't forgotten. If that story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments. Have you ever had someone steal credit for your work? What would you have done? And if you love true stories where karma hits hard, but slow, subscribe now. Because we're just getting started.